In the passage that I read before, I said that there was a sentence in there which rocked my world, and it is still the foundation of my everyday practice. And it is, life will be to you what you are to it. Even when I was the minister of Unity Church in Nashville, Tennessee, I had that quotation in the big letters on the back of my church wall, because there's no clearer direction in our philosophy than life will be to you what you are to it. Now, here's the thing. It is also true that even when something sounds very simple, so simple that it can't be really that effective, it's up to us to take it to its logical conclusion. And when you examine all the different facets of a simple truth teaching, it will make astonishing demands. Enough for a full life of practice. So you say life will be to me what I am to it. Okay, I'm a nice guy. Why don't I have everything that I want? Right? Yeah. More is required. When Jean sang, "Be still and know that I am God," that is a condition of complete and profound simplicity, void of every other obsession that you might have, distraction that you might have. It is not easy to attain that. It's not easy to believe it. Not easy to believe that everything I need to create the life I want is already within me. So, like, what's the problem? Why don't I have everything that I think I want? I've been kind of thinking about a version of plan A for the last 50 years. Why don't I have all the ingredients? This is where spiritual living, the practicing the art of spiritual living, comes into play, and why it's a minute by minute activity. There are two things, as far as I'm concerned, that really embody all of spiritual living as a practice. One is giving, one is forgiving. I'm not going to get into giving, because we always default and say, I give, I'm generous. It's not about money. So forget about that. Let's move on to being forgiving. What does it really mean to be a forgiving person? Doesn't mean that you have to make something that's unconscionable okay. It's not denying that bad things happen in life, because they do. But to be in a state of forgiveness, there are two images, two similes, metaphors you can use about forgiveness. It's either an on or off switch. Forgiveness is always flowing all the time, or it's a dial. I kind of think of it as a dial more than an on and off switch. Like, the juice is on, but most of the time it's so low I can't even hear it or feel it. When somebody calls us on our stuff, or when we call ourselves, when we're wise enough to call us on our own stuff, and we realize I need to let that go, that's when we turn up the dial and say, how do I let it go? How do I let it go? The answer to every question about why or how, the answer is always the same, little by little. Nobody wants to hear that. Everybody wants instant, dramatic, theatrical, gross demonstrations right away. It doesn't happen like that. It happens little by little. I know when I came into this teaching 40 years ago, even for like 15 years, if the question came up like, what religion are you? I'd say, well, I'm Catholic. And it was 15 years after the fact, I thought, I'm not. Why do I keep saying that? It's a habit. Little by little, you let things go. Little by little, we let resentments go. Little by little, we let regrets go. Until at some point, it's like being on a beach, maybe where you had built a sandcastle, and over time, the tide keeps coming in and it washes it away and it washes it away and it washes it away. And then you can look back at your life and you go, well, I know I used to be mad about something, but I can't, it's not there anymore. Quicker results are better than the results that take decades. This is for sure. But if we're really not mindful about our self-talk, about the thoughts that are going on in our head, it will take forever or it will never happen at all. My first teacher in religious science, his one big teaching was, if I find myself thinking, and I can hear myself thinking all the time when we're watching TV or when we're rehearsing fights in our own head. Anybody do that? I used to be great at every time when I had a real job and I was driving to work, you know, I was always rehearsing a fight with somebody. What am I thinking? Do I really want to experience the result of what I'm thinking? Because I will if I hold on to that thought. And if I don't really want to experience the result of that line of thinking, then let it go. And in the letting go, forgive myself for being so long in learning. Forgive myself for being so damn judgmental about everything on planet Earth. And I've got plenty of things to be judgmental about. However, let it go. I try to look at things as if they are an opportunity for me to be in my practice. It's almost like, you know, the news, Mary Baker Eddy said this, that the news is a prayer request. That's why she started the newspaper Christian Science Monitor, so you would know what to pray about, not the effect, but the cause. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Yeah. Newspaper which still exists. And my desire to get back to whatever the cause is requires constant awareness and forgiveness. Reverend Charles, a couple of times in the last weeks, has used the expression, do I give you safe passage through my mind? A more urban example would be, are you safe on the streets of my mind? Or are you going to get mugged when you pass through my judgment? That's almost a better expression. Because when we see something, someone, some idea, some piece of information, where our first reaction is usually, oh, no, you didn't. It's always a call to mindfulness. And who ultimately, who am I to be judgmental? Forgiveness practice, so simple. And again, it's never about making bad things okay. Forgiveness practices, who have I left out of my heart today? Well, have I got a list for you? The practice of forgiveness is to let it be, is to let the toxic judgment be. Because if I am leaving you outside of my heart, then the sacred heart that is the cosmos is leaving me out of its heart, which is what it means when it says life will be to you what you are to it. When I am a judgmental, whatever, so-and-so, I have no right to expect anything good to happen to me, which is why it's also the right thing to do. It has physical benefits that bless our bodies, and it's the thing that's standing between us and our demonstration in the life that we say we want. So often when we come into this philosophy and this practice, it's all about getting something and doing something, and I want this and I want that, and pray for me for this healing. And, you know, if that rat bastard of a husband ever calls me again, I'm gonna, but, you know, I want to be perfectly healed. Both systems can't be running at the same time. It's one or the other. Are you willing to accept good for you? Yes. Are you willing to allow everybody else to have some healing and some good for them? Well, I've got a list. No, that wasn't the question. Are you willing to have everybody have a healing and a greater demonstration of good in their lives? The answer has to be, yeah, I just thought of, there was towards the end of his life, Duke Ellington worked on a big body of music we called sacred songs and oratorio and whatnot. And would you snap along with me, everybody? This is one of the songs that he wrote. Don't you get down on your knees to pray until you have forgiven everyone. Don't you get down on your knees to pray until you have forgiven everyone. Have you forgiven the sinner who you blame for you not being a winner? I could go on, but I won't. The beauty of that was a Holy Ghost moment. You know, sometimes random things just come to you when you're in the flow of something else. The beauty of that is, don't you be so arrogant to think that the universe owes you anything until your side of the street is clean. That's what spiritual living really is. And if it wasn't really important, you know, there are not that many statements in what we call the Lord's Prayer, or when I was a kid in Catholic school, we called it the Our Father. But in the Lord's Prayer, it says, forgive us our debts as we have forgiven our debtors. There are only like 9 things that supposedly Master Teacher Jesus tells us is really important. And if being in a state of forgiveness, whatever the debt is, whatever is owed you, there's a process to go through. Now, again, the advanced student, like all y'all, you're not going to be so simplistic to say, well, if I lent somebody $10,000 and they haven't paid it back, should I just let it go? No, yeah. Ask for your daily bread, right? Give us our daily bread. But be in right relationship, for crying out loud, with the truth that will set you free. And after you have been in this for a long time, you know, maybe it's a lifetime, I don't know. I don't know how long it takes to get there, right? Maybe, you know, for some of us, we get to parts of it quicker. But I happen to believe that if we're still on this planet, and there are surely others that go before us, there are still things to reveal, there are things to heal, They're things to create and experience. But to be an aware and forgiving person is to let everybody off the hook for your life. I remember, you know, when Oprah first started, she hadn't taken the high road. That was a while before she started to take the high road. In the beginning, it was just a daytime talk show with a lot of other garbage. And I remember seeing her very early on, and there was a woman on, and I'll never forget this because it changed my life. She said, you know, as far as I'm concerned, if you're out of my house for 7 years, then you can't blame me for your life anymore, this mama said. And I went, you know, that's pretty good. Here I am, I'm 40, and I'm still blaming my mother for the house I grew up in. And I've been out of that house for 22 years. When am I going to grow up? And finally, at long last, assume full responsibility for my life. It's by forgiving. I'll say it the third time. Make no mistake, it's not about making unconscionable things okay. But also, it happened and it's over. And there is within me a capacity, which even Dr. Holmes calls your Christed self, right? That Christed self, which is your Christed self is like absolute zero in physics. Anybody know absolute zero, Dave? I'm looking at you. It's a condition. It's like 437 degrees or something below zero, but it's a condition where there is no resistance. And the Christed self in each one of us is a place, a capacity where there is no resistance to the outpicturing of the idea, the divine aspiration, and its outpicturing in your life. The first step is forgiveness. The everyday step is forgiveness. The every hour step is always forgiveness. If I cannot find a way to let everyone into my heart today, to give them safe passage on the streets of my mind, then I must first at least be neutral, at least find a way to be neutral and to do no harm. As they say in the Hippocratic Oath, first do no harm. Well, that takes a lot of forgiveness because there are parts of our brain that are wired for retribution and defense. But use the forefront of your brain to override that which we are hardwired for as hominids. You don't have to hit. That's not the first or the best response. In closing, there was a book I read a while ago, which was remarkable. 25 years ago, there was a mass shooting in an Amish community. And one of the things that was witnessed immediately around that event was that the Amish women that day took food to the gunman's mother's house. And they said to an elder, the name of the book is Amish Grace. And they said to the elder in the community, almost like, how dare you? You're like, what are you thinking? And the elder in the community said, oh, in our way of living, forgiveness is a first response strategy. I was surprised by that language because it was such a contemporary, almost military expression. But you know, when we talk about some ideas, we are quick always to say, that's not possible, or nobody really believes that, or nobody lives like that. Well, you know what? There are people that do. And they're called Amish, and they're called Quaker, and they're called Mennonite, and they're not stupid. They're people who really do have a practice. I don't think I'm strong enough to walk that path in this lifetime. I wish I could flatter myself to say that I was, but I don't think I am. So until I get to that place, I'm going to walk this path. I'm going to walk a path where I get a clear instruction to know that, yes, life will be to me what I am to it. And how much can I think about that? How much can I ask of myself to be aware of what I'm putting into the world on a minute by minute basis? You know, Reverend Charles, I wonder if I can get there. I'm going to invite you from now on. No, I want to be there. I did that on purpose. Yeah, applause. Yay, I did that on purpose. Reverend Charles might be smarter than he knows. Because from now on, when you read this, and Mr. Camera, I'm going to walk in this direction. So the camera will follow me as I'm walking and walking and walking. When you read this, I'm going to ask you to read it in 2 levels from now on, because it so clearly addresses an aspect of the human condition that we can lean into by means of forgiveness. And when we affirm as a community, we work diligently to be an instrument of life's goodness, because generally I'm not. We embrace our humanity, practice our spirituality, because usually I am fully in my human self, which is only concerned with my animal needs. We welcome, because I am not hardwired as a human being, as a great ape. I'm not hardwired to welcome. I'm hardwired to protect and defend. So as an act of forgiveness, I'm going to release that. I accept, because I'm not hardwired to accept. I'm hardwired like a reptile to know that you are not me. And maybe you're lunch, or maybe I'm your lunch, but I want to be accepting and honoring other people, because man, am I quick to judge. And if life will be to me what I am to it, I'm going to be judged up and down and excluded from every possible thing that I ever wanted to be. We serve each other because usually I want to be served. We find joy in giving because I'm hardwired to store up all my nuts for a long winter like a squirrel. For the love of God, are we any better than a squirrel? Yeah. Can I get a yes? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. We practice freedom and being self-love because I'm usually so damn critical about my own self as well as other people. We commit to growing in healing because I don't want anything to change. I'm staying right here, damn it. And that doesn't benefit anybody or anything. Oh, look, we practice forgiveness of myself, of my lower self. This can be a beautiful means to be accountable when we're here on Sunday. Because if we're not practicing self-forgiveness when we read that, we're merely flattering ourselves and going, oh, aren't we superior? We're such nice people. Not. We're all working on it together. Working on it together for one purpose, so that I might know the fullness of this experience of this life. According to whose guidelines? According to yours. My thing is, whatever you want, you're entitled to, as long as it serves your health and wholeness and does not diminish the experience of another. Please assume that the divine is begging for you to put that into life. I'm going to close this with an extremely brief prayer, giving thanks for, yes, the truth that everything I need was given to me at birth, and I am here to practice in a community of like-minded people where I can let my defenses down, where I can practice forgiveness, where I can be real, and I can know what being whole really feels like. And so it is, and amen. Thank you, friends.